600,000 people go missing in the United States each year. Tens of thousands remain mysteriously missing.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Mysteriously Missing. I'm Justine.
Hi, I'm Karen.
In today's case, we're going to be talking about a man named Jerome Ezell. He was a 27-year-old man who went missing on Tuesday, November 7th of 2017, and he was in Lansing, Michigan, and they found his 5-month-old son safe, luckily, in the back of the car, but we'll kind of get into that a little bit later.
Yeah, and today as we're recording, it's about a 1-year anniversary that he's gone missing, so they have not found this man. He is 5'4", 170 pounds. He has black hair, brown eyes. He's a black man known as Ronnie, or also E. And at the time he went missing, he was driving a white Chevrolet Equinox, and his son was in the back in the car seat. So we'll get into what he was wearing and some tattoos and things like that, but he is described as a loving, caring person who would not disappear.
Yeah, and apparently when he went missing that day, he had a red checkered zip-up hoodie on with a black leather coat over that hoodie and black pants, and then his girlfriend said he had wheat Timberland boots on as well.
Right, and he does have some tattoos. He has a pair of lips on his neck. He has one on his hand. It's his mother, Rosa, in a heart with a rose on his chest. He has 2 of his sons' names on the other side. And he has the quote, focus or fold on his upper back across his shoulders. His girlfriend's name is Jasmine Hill, and they were living together. And that was their son that was in the back of the car, Gioni. And Gioni was 5 months old, and Ezell also has 5 children with women from previous relationships who have assisted in the search for him as well.
And I believe now his girlfriend Jasmine, they have 2 kids together because she had a baby during this whole disappearance.
Right. So sadly, she was pregnant at the time he went missing and has since given birth. And so he has 2 children from Jasmine.
According to Jerome's Facebook, it says he had worked at Tim Hortons as a cashier, which I believe is just like a little coffee shop or coffee cafe type thing.
Right.
That we haven't been able to really verify.
Right.
The day that he went missing, it all kind of started that morning at about 9:30. Him and Jasmine were he had actually dropped off Jasmine at work, but he was on his way to drop off their son at daycare. And I believe around 10:20, she had received a text from him saying that he was in the car with their son on the way to the daycare, which kind of doesn't make sense to me if they had all been together that morning, just maybe an hour before. And
why would he text her and say I'm dropping him off when she knew that's what
exactly.
he was doing?
So I did find an article, maybe he had texted the daycare provider that, so that's kind of up in the air, but he had texted someone, he has a son, they're on their way to the daycare. That's about 10:20 that morning. And I believe the daycare provider
she lives near where they live.
Okay.
So that's across town.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then around 10:45 that morning, Jerome was seen in their car in the 500 block of South Clemens Avenue.
Yeah, so if you look at Google's map, they live in, I kind of figured it out, it's over by the Gettysburg Drive area. And if you go across town, which is about 14 minutes to where he was last seen, that's 14 minutes east. And then, so that's when he was last seen, and then his car was found up in the north, and that was not far north on Fairview Avenue.
Right. And that was later that morning.
Right.
It says around like 11:50. Actually, a neighborhood resident had seen his car parked there near Fairview Park Avenue.
Yeah, so who spotted him on South Clemens Avenue in the 500 block? Not sure. Mm-hmm. They do have one car between the 2 of them, right. And it was 1.3 miles south of where his car was actually found. But again, he was in a whole different neighborhood east of where they live and the daycare is.
Right. And the lady who had seen him around, 11:50 that morning, she was walking her dog, and she said it appeared to look, be an abandoned car there. So I don't think she
didn't peek in closely enough because the baby was in there. And that's the sad part of this whole story is that, and actually the fortunate part is that the baby later was found to be okay. But the 5-month-old baby was in the back, and she didn't peek in close enough. It was kind of pulled off. When I went down that avenue, Fairview Avenue, on Google Maps, you can see places where you can pull off, and there's a lot of woodsy area there. There's also water there. But people are walking around there. They walk their dogs and stuff, and then there's a golf course next door. But because the car was pulled off, I'm sure she didn't walk that way up that little drive and, try and look in the car, or maybe the windows weren't, easy to peer in, but she did not look in that much. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I believe later that day around 4:30, his girlfriend Jasmine had tried texting him, but she didn't get a response
from her work. Right.
Mm-hmm. And I think they found a phone in the car.
They did find a phone in the car, and the son was in the back seat of the car. The car was unlocked. The keys were on the passenger seat. The son's seat was not secured. It's like he pulled off, was going to take the baby out, and then, in the car seat or whatever, or just maybe it was one of those carriers where you could put it in and use it as a carrier. And then he disappeared.
And I don't think it was hot out that day.
No, it was about 50 degrees, so I'm sure the windows were up as another reason why nobody heard the baby crying or saw in the windows, because 50 degrees is a little chilly. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think how she found the car was using the OnStar navigation system.
Right, so back to the timeline, at approximately 7 o'clock, Jasmine noticed that their OnStar navigation system had been deactivated. Now, was it deactivated because, they needed to pay more on the bill, or was it deactivated because somebody deactivated it? Not sure about that. But once she saw that and she hadn't heard from Jerome, she reactivated it. So between 7:20 and 7:50, she was able to, within that half-hour range, able to find the vehicle by using that OnStar navigation system, thank goodness. And she looked at her little baby's face, and his face was wet as if he'd been previously crying, and reportedly he had a dry diaper. So that's a long time for a baby to be in a car. The neighbor went by at 11:50, so let's say he pulled in right before that. 10:45, he was seen in the block. So let's say at 11 o'clock, he pulls into those woods. That is 8.5 hours later.
Yeah.
That's a long time for a baby to be sitting in that car seat. Bless his little heart.
Oh, yeah. And they did take him to the hospital, though. They found out he was not dehydrated, which is good, and he was in fairly good condition. So that's always, that's nice to hear.
Right. So immediately she calls the police in because, of course, very odd situation. And the police searched that wooded area where the vehicle was found with cadaver dogs, and they used night vision equipment because, of course, now it's 8 o'clock night or whatever time they came in at night. So
once the police searched the vehicle, they found a phone in the cup holder. They did not find his ID, which, had apparently been left at home, which is kind of odd to be driving around without your ID.
Exactly.
They did say another phone had still not been found, which doesn't make sense. So I don't know if he had two phones. Maybe Jasmine left her phone in the car.
Yeah, there was a bit of conversation about the phones and why would they have one phone between them, or why? So why did he have both phones, and what was he using the second phone for? So it was a little confusing.
Right. There is a reward set at about $10,000, I believe. However, I did find a GoFundMe page set up by Jasmine with a goal of $4,000, and I believe right now they've raised about $2,600 so far.
Right, and what they're using that GoFundMe page for is they had hired Jason McCausey, a Michigan-based private investigator. And based on the interviews that this private investigator had set up, he received tips from people with ties ranging from Detroit to Florida. So this is getting a little complicated. What also made the case a little bit complicated is that he does have a record. In November of 2007, he was arrested for controlled substance, delivery, manufacture of marijuana. He got, in 12/3/2009 was the date of his sentence, and there was a plea deal. And also in that sentence, there was the offense was a police officer assault, resist, and obstruct. And again, that was a plea deal that he was off in December of 2009. And then the third sentence was in March of 2009, and it was controlled substance delivery, manufacture, marijuana. And it was, the date of sentence was April of 2012.
Yeah, and even with the, kind of a criminal background a little bit, Jasmine Hill still said, this is not the type of father to leave a child abandoned.
Right. So apparently a good father, and we do have a quote from his mother saying that it's just been a back and forth thing, hoping that we'd find something that will lead to my son's whereabouts. So a lot of people missing this young man. Yeah, so this case is a little confusing as to what happened to this young man, and I'm absolutely certain he would not leave his child in the back of that car seat. And whatever happened to him, in a way, it's a good thing that the son was left and not involved in and missing as well. I'm trying to think of some possibilities of what happened, and one of the things that comes to my mind is, why was his car in an area over there, pulled into a wooded area, and not over by the daycare in his home? So, still quite a ways away from there. And he was seen in the morning, so was he meeting somebody?
Yeah, and why would he text Jasmine or whoever he had texted that morning saying they're on their way to the daycare and then never showed up?
He ended up in another area.
Right. Did he have plans to stop along the way, or did he meet someone on the way? Or it's just kind of odd.
Yeah, and that was a 15-minute drive away from the house. So not so far from the house that maybe he could have pulled it off and ended up back at the daycare after, going to this area to meet somebody perhaps. Mm-hmm. But the odd thing is, he's gone. He's gone. The car's there, and whatever happened to him, at least they left the baby.
Right.
There was an interesting report that the family says foul play is suspected.
Which I have to say, who would leave a baby? You know what I mean? Someone maybe had taken him against his will or something.
Right.
Which, I don't know. He
got out of the car, put his keys on the passenger seat, mm-hmm. left the car in the holder, going to talk to this person.
With every plan of getting back in the car and taking his child to daycare.
Although the baby seat was undone. So was he going to pull the baby out and then it got heated? Because what happened is it was reported that two neighbors who came forward as witnesses, one heard two men arguing at the park, so maybe him and another fella, and they said that later on or right after that, a witness, saw a white man running down Hopkins Street away from the park. He was wet and appeared to be under the influence of something.
So maybe, this is kind of reaching, but I wonder if the arguing and the baby seat undone, if someone had tried to take the baby, that's, and then he had to put up a fight. But even then, why is he gone? Like, why would he just disappear like that?
Right. And, is he making supplemental income on the side by maybe a marijuana deal or something mm-hmm. like that? And maybe he pulled up, the other car was there. He realized it was going to be heated. Instead of taking baby out, just put the baby back down. Mm-hmm. And then things went amiss. So they have searched that area. They searched the water. And Jasmine Hill was quoted as saying they've searched, miles and miles out looking for him. And so they are using that GoFundMe to help find him. And she's quoted as saying that all the money will be used for the sole purpose of getting Jerome home and back to his family. They are very thankful for the continuous support. No amount of money is too small, and all donations will be greatly appreciated by his loved ones. So,
yeah, and kind of speaking of family, there was something on Facebook, I believe, in July of this year, 2018, that it was the first time all of his boys were in the same house together.
that's nice. Yeah.
Yeah, and I believe with their names, Lil Ronnie, and then there's something that says even though he's bigger now, or Big Ronnie now.
Unfortunately, because his dad was Big Ronnie and not is missing.
Deshaun, Jakari, Gianni, and Jackson were the other ones there. So it's kind of, it's nice that they're all together, but...
Yeah, and they're beautiful boys. If you look at the picture, they're just really beautiful family.
Yeah.
And now he has a new baby he hasn't even seen. So we are coming up on the 1-year anniversary. I know the Lansing Police Department is still working on this case, and the private investigator, as long as they have enough funds to keep him employed. And there was one interesting thing. There was a report that there was a last text to someone, they're not naming who it was, and then this someone told Jerome that he would see him in the garage. So the family has tried to contact this guy, and he hangs up on them. So
Which
I'm sure
is really odd.
It is. It is a little strange. So I'm sure the police and the PI especially have tried to follow up on that. And I'm sure the phone that is missing, if that is true that it is missing, one of the phones, probably would give a lot of leads too as to where this young man is.
Right. And if anyone has any information about this, even the smallest amount, you can call the Lansing Township Police Department, and their phone number is 517-485-1700. And we're also going to have some pictures on our Instagram, of maps of where he went missing and pictures of him and his son. So you can check that out at Mysteriously Missing. That's our Instagram page.
You can also email us at mysteriously-missing411@gmail.com. And on YouTube, give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel, please.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks, everyone.